The cost of living crisis has broken Australian household budgets all across the country. If you're sitting here watching this, you will know exactly what I mean. I bought a coffee this morning and I spent $6.80 to drink a regular flat white here in Sydney. Absolutely ridiculous. This is a problem that many of us are feeling every single day. Sometimes we don't even feel like we can talk about it, but the cost of living has been dramatically rising in Australia in the last few years. But do we have some early signs? Finally, do we have some semblance of hope that prices will stop rising? In this video, I'm going to deep dive into a report by the Commonwealth Bank of Australia that measures the price rises that's happening, an effective measurement of Australia's cost of living crisis. And what they're saying is there's some hope coming out at the moment that inflation may actually be starting to come down faster than everyone expects. This is an evolving story, so we don't quite know the answer just yet, but I wanted to do a video, provide some hope that this cost of living crisis is behind us and we can all look forward. Let's get into it. So, CBA, their economics team, speak a lot of economics, a lot of big fancy words here, unpacking what's going on. I'm going to try and make sense of it. They're saying that we are increasingly confident that the disinflationary pulse has firmed. I think that means that they think that the inflation rate is coming down. They could have said it a little bit clearer. We are increasingly confident that the disinflationary pulse has firmed. Very, very strange choice of words, but this is the way these economists talk. So what they're saying is they think that inflation's coming down. Let's go through why. First step that they see here is this other indication that they have. They use this tool called the Melbourne Institute Inflation Gauge, which is something that measures how much prices are rising. I think they're looking at those coffee stores where I paid $6.80 and being like, hey, how much you charged last week? For like $6.70. Another rise. That's what they're measuring, I think. They're checking out live data on the price of everything we pay. If you think about it yourself, I bought a coffee yesterday. I bought a bottle of water yesterday. I am making transactions. I'm participating, buying things, and I'm paying a price for it. So I get a little bit of an insight as to the price that I'm paying for something the moment I get it. So inflation comes out every quarter. They're measuring it, but it's measuring what's actually happening every single day. You probably made some purchases today yourself, whether you even know it or not. Netflix is charging you today. That's kind of what happens. We don't even know. Your bank's probably charging you too. So you have changes in price, and this indicator comes out before the official one, but it tracks the official one. They correlate with each other, and this one, it's nosediving. And they've also got a cool chart correlating what the official measurement is and their one, and you could see their one is nosediving, and the correlated one, the one that the RBA are going to look at, will continue to nosedive too. So the Melbourne Institute, one of the main bodies that measure inflation, they say that inflation's going to come down pretty quickly. Another group, NAB, they have something called final price measure. Another tool, but this one comes from surveying all the businesses. So they go out to the business owners and be like, hey business, how you doing? You increasing prices? How's all your business stuff going? You doing well? That's basically what they do. They go and send out a survey. Maybe they pick up the phone and be like, business, how you feeling? And they collect that data. And that information also suggests that prices are coming down too. So you have two different groups, Melbourne Institute and NAB, with both of their measurements saying that inflation's coming in a fair bit less than expected. This is pretty good news. This is kind of what we want to see. Perhaps it turns this cost of living crisis that we feel, that we think we're in, perhaps it's changing to be like, okay, sure, prices are still really high. I'm still being ripped off every time I go buy a coffee or buy a bottle of water. It feels like my dollar isn't taking me as far. It isn't. The value of our currency is turning to trash. Yes, that is happening, but it ain't getting worse. That's pretty much the message across these couple metrics so far. And that's good news, or at least it's better than bad news, and that's kind of a positive. That's what I'm taking out of it. What we also have is the PMI. So this is a gauge of prices in the services sector. So this is not measuring goods, but it's measuring services. So, haircuts and dentists, using the RBA's words. That is also coming down a little bit. So that's also positive. We also have rents, which make up the largest portion of the inflation basket, makes up about 6 or 7% in total, while housing makes up nearly a quarter, roughly 22% of the entire CPI basket, of the entire inflation basket. That is also coming down. Unpacking that a little bit is the way that we measure inflation is, just imagine you have a basket, a shopping trolley, and you go and put everything into the shopping trolley. I go put some toothpaste in, I go put my coffee in, I go put my house rent in. I know you can't really do that, but imagine you can. I put my dental fees in, my haircut cost in, everything I spend money in, you got a shopping trolley. What they do is they measure how much this shopping trolley costs this month versus what it cost last month, what it cost every month, and that's kind of what they're doing here. That is how inflation is measured, and that is what the RBA look at. That's called the Consumer Price Index, CPI. You've probably heard of that term over the last few years. That's what they're looking at, and all of these other measurements, Melbourne Institute and NAB Final Price Surveys, these other institutes, they do the same thing. They're just a different measurement, not the official one, but they kind of track the official one, so the official one should copy them, all going well. Hopefully there's no surprises there. Rents, on the flip side, are coming down so quickly. Look at this chart. There's a nosedive, nosedive, nosedive. I've done a full video on this. It was breaking news about a month ago, but that data is becoming more and more pronounced, more and more clear. In every data that we look at, rents have stopped rising in many capitals. They are falling in Sydney. They're falling in a few other capitals as well. Really, really good news for renters, because it means that you're not going to be squeezed and hamstrung by your landlord this time around. And if you are, go push back on them and say, hey, hang on. Rents have stopped rising. I watched this YouTube video. Look at this, landlord. Don't charge me anymore. Might not work for you, but give it a go. Okay, so we have a couple of other things as well. So we have this weird thing called breadth of inflation. Oh my God, like these economists use such crazy words. Breadth of inflation. All right, break down this one. So I'm back to my shopping trolley and I'm trying to work out how many of the items in my shopping trolley, let's say I've got 50 items, how many of the items in my shopping trolley are rising by more than 3% and how many are rising by less than 2%. What we can see is far fewer, a big drop off is rising by more than 3%. That means there's a lot of these items that were rising a lot, like fuel, like rents, things like that. They've stopped rising as much. And a lot of the items are rising by less than 2% now. I haven't quite felt this yet, but that's what the data's saying. We've also got CBA's wage tracker. This one's really, really creepy. CBA, our country's largest bank, they got a lot of our bank accounts. A lot of our pays, maybe yours, listening to this, go into the CBA bank accounts. And CBA, they monitor this, they measure it. They're using their big data teams to get that insight. A little bit creepier. Hopefully they're not monitoring everything that you're spending your money on in producing these charts, but they've done it with wage tracker. And what they can see is the wage price index, how much wages are increasing by, a very, very key number for the RBA as well. That is coming down, and wage growth is coming back down quite markedly over the last few months. Well, this kind of sucks for us. It means that the cost of things have stopped rising a lot, but our wages have stopped growing. That's really the message here. So is it really getting that? Is this cost of living crisis getting that much better? Hopefully you're in a position where your pay is going up and the costs of things are actually coming down, and that comes through and you'll be in a positive situation. You call that real income growth. We haven't seen much of that at all in the last few years. In fact, real incomes, the position that we all feel in, have moved backwards for the first time over an extended period of time since 1991. That stat is scary. We feel like we're in a recession as a household, even though we're in jobs, which is a good outcome, but that is a real statistic about Australia. It's why we feel like there's a big cost of living crisis, and it's why everyone in Australia just feels like, there's a monkey on our back at the moment that doesn't go off, and that's the cost of everything. We also have a couple of other metrics. we feel like inflation expectations are not as high as they once were. This is good news because we don't expect prices to rise as much as they did. We are now sitting at home thinking, wow, this ridiculous coffee that costs $6.80 won't be $7.20 in a few months' time. I'm paying a ridiculous amount. Surely you can't go any more than this. I think that's the position that we've kind of got to. So that's being measured in the data as well. So there's a whole range of metrics. When you combine all of these story together from the economist gurus at CBA, you have a story of the deflationary pulse, the prices of goods in this basket I talked about, that price increase is coming down, 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 much more in line with what the RBA want. And it could finally mean that we've beaten inflation. And if it does, it not only means that the cost of living crisis is going away, but for you as a property investor, as a homeowner, as someone with a mortgage, it could mean lower interest rates are around the horizon. And that will cause a big change in property markets all across Australia. You're going to see some of the capitals are doing really, really well pull back a little bit, and some of the capitals not doing so well, New South Wales and Victoria, do much better. You're going to see economic change. You're going to see the retail sector in New South Wales and Victoria pick up again after nearly 40-odd thousand jobs have been lost in those areas. You're going to see a change in the mix of how our economy performs, because that's what lowering interest rates does, and that could really help certain sectors. So lower inflation means lower interest rates, and it could be really, really good news overall if we get that outcome while keeping more than most people employed and strong employment growth in Australia. That is the current narrative in Australia, and it's getting a little bit easier. If you found this video interesting and insightful and want me to produce any more economic type videos, drop a comment below, hit that bell notification and hit that subscribe button, and I'll keep producing more and more economic content, updating you with the lay of the land as to what's going on, breaking down these complex economic reports into something we can all understand.